Good morning, my lovelies, and Sunday blessings to you. I'm just coming on to do my Tarot and Oracle Sunday review video for you all. And of course, just want to quickly say happy Mother's Day to all those amazing mums out there, whether they are with you in the physical world or, if you've lost beautiful mums and they've transitioned to the spirit realm. Just know and trust that they still stand, that unconditional love will still be felt today. And if you have lost, a beautiful mum or maybe like a nan or somebody very close to you, today is a lovely day to light a pink candle. And if you've got like a flower that you can place with it, and if you have tarot yourself, it's always nice to use this sort of tarot card of strength, and you can place that next to it, or the Empress. Either of those cards reflect mother energy very well, just as a nice little tribute or dedication to our ancestors and our loved ones in the spirit world, if you feel guided to do that. So the deck that I'm going to be showing to you this week is a tarot deck, and it is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. And this is a deck that is by Phyllis Curott, I think I've said that right, and the artwork is by Danielle Barlow. Now guys, this deck is so confusing because everything about it I want to love, I want to like, but I really am unsure about this one. This is a deck that I'm really questioning. Now, I've got to say, this is probably the best packaging on a deck that I've ever come across. So the box is absolutely stunning. The box is absolutely beautiful. I love all the foiling that they've used here, as you can see. And the back of the box, great also. Beautiful examples of, the types of artwork that you can receive. Now, this deck has been created and published by Hay House. So you can see on the side there, and obviously, as you know, we've seen a lot of decks by Hay House. This is probably the most extravagant, I think, of all the tarot decks I've got that are produced by Hay House. So, no money has been, no expenses spared, really, in terms of everything. And I think this is partly why I feel a little bit let down and a bit disappointed with this deck, because the box really lures you in. I was expecting something a little bit more amazing. And the reason I think that I was expecting something so amazing is because as we open this up, they've really, really gone to town on making this such an amazingly beautiful, really kind of like a vision, if you like. So here's the book, which we'll look at in a lot more detail later on. But good sized book, nice and thick. And, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a textured hardback. So just look at the quality, quality-wise, this is easily a 10. So I'm not disputing the quality, but it's just the actual other attributes of this deck that we'll look at shortly. Now, like I say, beautiful presentation. You have your own tarot bag with this. So I don't think I've ever come across a deck where it includes its own little sort of luxurious tarot bag. So that is stunning, that is lovely as well. And this is why I was so excited. This is why I was thinking, oh my god, this is going to be an amazing deck. And it is a lovely deck in its own right, but it's confused me. It's really confused me. What I do love as well is we've got this little spell inside here, and it just sort of says, I will read this little spell in the back here. Ask your question, shuffle the cards, open the book and take a look. Spirit hears what's in your heart and answers with love, wisdom and art. So I really love that. And then there's just another little spell here which just says, magic of feather, song and earth, awaken, inspire and make aware. Magic of claw, hearth and fire, warm, 11 and inspire. Magic of fin, womb and water, love and dreams conjure. Magic of fur, seed and earth, embody, nourish and give birth. Magic within and around awaken, spirits, answers and guidance taken. So that side of things is absolutely stunning, it's absolutely beautiful. I love, love, love this. So this is all the packaging, all the external stuff is easily a 10 by far. Beautiful magnetic sort of lock here, as it sort of closes. Can't fault the box, can't fault any of that. Beautiful. But then when we open up the cards themselves, this is what I feel like I'm struggling with a little bit. It's almost like we've had all that extravagant energy, and then when we actually open up the cards themselves, if I can get them out of this little pouch, great size, you know, these are more of like an oracle size, but nice. These are quite big, but these are lovely. So this is the back, you know, stunning, stunning. That's lovely, lovely. And stock quality, as I've said many times before, Hay House always do a really good card. So this is really lovely. This is really rigid. What I have a slight issue with is the artwork itself. Some of the artwork is lovely. Some of it is a bit like, you know, if this was like, if these cards were sort of up in a gallery and I was looking around, it's some stuff that I would probably walk past and not really bother to fully acknowledge. So like this card is Pilgrim. That's the other thing. They've changed loads of the dynamic of how the traditional tarot works. So like the traditions of Rider-Waite, it's all been changed. It's all been turned topsy-turvy. So I will say, if this is your first tarot deck, don't go for this one, because you will be so flummoxed, because there's so many things that have been changed. You'd almost have to relearn tarot afterwards, you know. So don't learn with this deck. That if you can already read tarot, it's much easier to sort of just transfer over. But if you can't read tarot, and if this is your first deck, I would not recommend this as a beginner's deck, because it's confusing. I find it confusing, and I've read tarot for a long time. But, you know, the equivalent of the Fool is this card, the Pilgrim. Now, I love this card. I think this is really good. The artwork is nice, but having said that, the artwork is a little bit like, I'm going to sound awful to say this, it's like something or nothing, you know. And it's the third thing, is the first time, like Ace of Earth. So they've changed all of the, you know, the cups, the wands, all the suits have been changed. It's not that the sort of artwork is not lovely, but it's just a little bit, I don't know, I feel it's something or nothing. It's something I would probably just like walk past and avoid, really, you know. Maybe I'm being like really bad or really harsh, but that's my opinion of how I sort of see these. So I felt like there was a little bit of like an anti-climax with this deck, you know. And I might be completely off course with this, and I know there are some people that use this deck. There are quite a few people, I've got friends that use this deck, and they absolutely swear by it, and they absolutely love it. And if you are someone that's got this deck already and you do love it, that's fantastic that you've got a connection. So I don't want to discredit the deck or take anything away from it, but it's just not as amazing as I was expecting it to be, because there was such a build-up, you know, when you open the box, when you look at all these magnificent things, and then you see this beautiful bag. I just don't think the artwork fully reflects all the greatness that this deck potentially kind of could offer. So this may cause some upset, some controversy, but that's my opinion, and that's just how I sort of choose to see this, you know. So it is a shame, really. It's a real sort of shame, to be honest, that it couldn't have been just that little bit more special. Like this one, you know, for of Water, I just feel like it's boring, and from like an intuitive space, that actually is quite a hard card to read. So if you didn't know its traditional values and its traditional meaning, you might really struggle with this, you know. So it's just like, it's just not my favourite deck, you know. I had maybe had too much expectations upon it. I love the idea of it all being sort of like connecting to the nature and the earth and all those different elemental energies. I love that side of things, and the fact there's so many beautiful creatures in here, but it's just not for me. It's not a deck I will be working with particularly. I know for a fact this will be a deck that just sits on the shelf and probably not much happens, which again is a real shame. Now there are some cards within here that are nice, and there are some cards that I do quite like the energy of, but as a whole deck there's a lot of cards that I don't like, and I don't think I've ever said that about a deck before. I'm not saying that the artist is bad, because, you know, clearly this artist is amazingly talented to create the imagery that is here, but it's just not really for me, you know. I'm not feeling it at all. I've not had a bond with this deck, and normally with all of the decks that I show you, I think in most cases I have some kind of connection or some kind of bond, which is usually what happens with the deck. You form a bond or a connection, but with this, I just get nothing. I get really stagnant energy. So this is going to be a really, really hard deck for me to sort of read with. So I'm really glad that I have got the book, because I just don't like it. And like I say, I don't think I've ever said that about a deck before, really, but it's just not for me. So if you're sort of looking at this and you're loving it and you're really feeling inspired by the visionaries and the imagery, fantastic. And you know, that's amazing if you do feel drawn and connected to it. But like I say, for me, I just get a cold feeling. I get nothing from it. And I'm really disappointed that that is how it leaves me feeling, because I wanted to be excited for it. I wanted this deck to be, you know, bloody amazing, but it just hasn't been that way. Now, I want to show you enough of these cards just so you get, obviously, a collective of how they all are and how they all look. I almost feel like there's too many different types of theme going on as well. And I'm sure they've done it for a reason and everything else. But I just feel like the deck almost is slightly confused. I think that's the other problem. You know, whereas some decks are a little bit more disciplined in their approach, this just feels to me slightly confused, I think, in some ways. And I'm wondering if maybe en route, you know, the artist changed or lost the vision, or, you know, the author changed things so much that it just became a little bit cloudy. I might be wrong with that, but that's just how I sort of feel things to be. I do like this one, I have to say, Goddess of Air. I think that's kind of quite cool. So there are the odd one or two that I really like, but it's just, as a rule, like some of these cards I'm looking at and thinking I would really struggle to be able to read with this deck. So I prefer to have the traditional suits. You know, it doesn't bother me that people change them, but I just think there's too much change in this deck. You know, too much has been changed and too much has been lost, and that's made it a bit tricky to kind of work with for me. So I'm going to show you maybe one or two more, because I want to keep a couple back as a surprise, just in case you do resonate with this deck, and in case you want to sort of, you know, have something for yourself here. So I'm going to show you maybe like one or two more cards, and I think then that will probably be your lot. Okay, let's just show you one more. Okay, so I'm going to end it there just to keep a couple back, just so you know you've got like some stuff that you can kind of compare things to. Just seeing what the other ones were of interest. I mean, this one's nice, Wheel of Life, which is the equivalent of the Wheel of Fortune. That's really beautiful. So there are some lovely cards, but there are just some that are a bit like, nah, not for me. So as we look at the book's quite complicated as well, because what you've got at the back of this book, because like I said, they've made loads of changes, thank God they've given us a breakdown sheet. So they've got here like major arcana card order, and basically how like things would normally work with the Fool being at the start, they've turned it all around in this deck. So instead the Fool is at the end and is the Pilgrim card, and then they've basically worked backwards. So they've got like the Raider-Waite traditions, and they've got the Raider-Waite reversed, and then, you know, how everything transpires really. So yeah, just a really, really interesting deck, but I don't know, just not for me really. At the start of this book there's a lot of chat about you know, how the cards were born. So there's like an introduction, and then we go into the sort of witch's wisdom side of things. There's quite a lot of interesting sort of additional meaning here, which is quite nice. And then there's just a lot of talk about a lot of kind of different bits and pieces of how things have changed, divination and magic. So they've included quite a lot of that nice aspect of it all, which is cool. And then it's pretty much like straight into the card meanings itself. I was seeing if there was anything about the authors. There isn't really so much that I can see about the authors. What you have got is a couple of card spreads, so that's quite nice. They've included a few of those. So, but like I say, in terms of quality, because this is like a really beautiful, it's like a textured sort of matte finish, so I can't fault that. The cards themselves are also textured, so that's lovely. But I don't know, just not for me. So artwork wise, independent artwork, it would have been a 10, but as a deck, I don't think it works particularly well. So I'm going to say 7, you know, for art, which I know is quite low for me, but I'm just not feeling it. So let's pick a card for this Sunday, and more importantly, this will follow through for the coming week ahead. So things that we need to be aware of, general guidance to be given, and let's see what we've got going on. Let's see what we need to know about and what its message is. Oops. The other thing, because these are more of an oracle size, these are almost a little bit too big to shuffle. You know, I'm actually finding these a bit of a problem because they're so big. They would have been better, being the traditional tarot size, being that bit more slender and tall. I think it would have been easier to work with. So again, they are not my favourite. It's like the feeling that I get is like they've almost tried too hard. Okay, we've got the moon coming out. That is a nice card, like visually, I have to say. So like I say, I can appreciate the artwork for what it is. I'm not saying the artist is rubbish or crap, because they're clearly not. They're very talented. I just don't think it's necessarily the most beautifulest deck we've ever had, you know. So let's find the moon in the book, and let's see what we've got going on. What I do like here is that they've got the Roman numeral, but they've also got the normal version of like the number. Quite like that. And I will say there's loads of information, so that's really nice. You know, a double spread page for each card. So, you know, it's packed with information, which is a good attribute, because I think you need that with this. But like I say, it's just a little bit of a shame. So what we've got at the start, we've got a section which is wisdom. So this is ultimately, I feel, perhaps the bulk of, you know, the message. So it just says here, there's a wildness within us that yearns to be physical, sensual, animal free, but fear of the unknown part of the shadows where it dwells, of where it might take us and who it might make us, has left us all only half alive. We live in a human world of comfort and possessions, safe and secure, but cut off from the natural world, from our body, from the magic of embodiment. It's the moon that illuminates our ancient longing. When it appears in the night sky of our soul, it's a holy grail, finally within reach, a cup of the wine of life, in which our dreams of wholeness float. It's the moon that pulls us forward with its rhythmic ebb and flow, a mystery that women's bodies know. Diana, goddess of witches and all things wild, holds the mirror of her full and shining moon, for us to see our sacred selves, no longer hidden, doubted, or unconscious. The pilgrim goes to see her reflection. She enters the dark woods, and wolves appear. She slips into the deep waters, where otters play. She even dares to brave the dragon's lair. Wildness is the only path to the moon. There's no need to dread the companies. Is that right? The companions? I think so. Sorry, it's my dyslexia kicking in. Who will teach you how to shapeshift into hoof and horn, paw and claw, fur and feathers, fins and scales, bud and leaf and flower. Set your foot upon the silver path. The moon will light your way from fear to the fierce and freeing desires of your wild and natural self. So that's the bulk in a nutshell. And then we've got essential here, essence. So this is like a bullet point form of what's happening. So we've got mystery, wildness, physical instinct, liberated feminine power. And then we've got counsel. So this is an additional piece here. When the moon appears and the wild calls, what will you choose? The illusory safety of your city tower, the sanctuary of a witch's cottage, with its tiny light shining in the forest. You can't pretend that's wildness. Howl at the moon, race with wolves, swim with otters, fly with owls. Look back into the far distance and see the light from your cottage window. Feel a pang of sorrow for all that you have let go. Then turn to the moon above and feel a shiver of delight as you hear the answering howl of your companions. Watch the moon follow its rhythm in the sky. See how it pours the tides below. Feel that pour within you, rising and subsiding. Feel the moon in your body, in your heart, in your mind. When you choose to return to your cottage and community, you'll return changed, free, whole and holy, blessed by the moon. So there's an additional there. And then it just says magic here at the end. At the next full moon, take a small round mirror and go outside. Capture the moon's reflection in the mirror. Now look at yourself in it. See the light in your eyes, even in the darkness. Tilt the mirror until you can see the shining moon. Look at yourself again. See yourself more clearly. See the light that shines within you. See the magic that shines within you. See the future that awaits you. Lift the mirror to the moon and give thanks for the blessings she has given you. So I quite like the fact there's a small little sort of magic ritual or spell that you can do. That's really, really nice. I'm not sure about that, you know. There's a lot there, which is fantastic, and there's some great messages within there, but it's all a bit wordy for me. It's all a bit kind of like rhythmic, and there's a bit too much going on, and I think sometimes that has detracted. This might just be my own dyslexia, but I think a little bit that sometimes has detracted so much from the message, the meaning. What's this card actually telling us in a nutshell? So if you could take some stuff from that, and if you really liked it, fantastic. If you felt it's a little bit like, oh God, what's he actually banging on about? Which is how I felt reading it a little bit. I felt that sometimes there's so much in there. Sometimes too much information is just that too much. So again, I'm not sure, but I'm going to leave this deck with you. So like I say, it's the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. If you are a die-hard tarot collector like myself, it's definitely worth having in the collection just because you can say you've got it. I know for a fact this isn't a deck that I will work with. It might be in the future. It makes itself more apparent and more known to me, because sometimes decks do that. Sometimes they come into our life to be used in the future. Might be the case with this one. I think I would score it all in all about 7. Like I say, there's some amazing qualities within this, you know, the packaging, the way it's presented. I can't fault that side of things is a 10, but overall in terms of its practicality and its everyday to day use, I really think it is a 6 or a 7, you know, to be honest, for me. And some of you might love this, some of you might agree. That's the great thing with free will, you know, this is just my opinion of how I'm sort of feeling the deck to be at the moment. We're going to leave this with you. Check it out. If you feel resonated, if you feel guided to it, obviously explore it and see how it works for you. But it's the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, and this is not to be mistaken from the Witch's Wisdom Oracle that exists, which is by Barbara and Flavia. This is a completely different deck, completely different sort of way of being. But this deck is by Phyllis Curott, and it's illustrated by Danielle Barlow. So if you feel guided to it, check it out. But yeah, that's my little review for this one for this week. So stay safe and well. Have a great Mother's Day if you're celebrating it in whatever context or whatever way. Much love and blessings. Catch you guys again soon. Bye for now.